Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today we will look at monitoring a folder while we await the creation of a file, and pick up the last modified date and time from the file. This was our application at the end of the last video. Our application, when run, will monitor this target folder. It will look inside that target folder for a specific file. It will then, if it finds that file, compare the hash value of the file against all previous hash files processed. This allows us to wait for a file appearing in a specified folder, checking to see whether we have seen it already, and processing accordingly. However, since we're monitoring this folder for a specific file, there may always be the possibility that the users have uploaded the file and then a moment or two later decided that the file is not correct. So what we're going to do today is build a slight delay into the system so we can check to see when the file was last updated. So let's have a look at the code. In our application, we're specifying the name of the file we're going to be looking for. We're also specifying the folder in which this file will be held. And we're passing those details to a function called check_for_specific_file. This function checks to see if the file exists, and if the file is found, it then checks to see whether we've processed the file already or not. In order to do this, it's generating a hash number for the file's contents. It's then comparing that hash against a series of hashes it has previously calculated, which are held in a flat text file called FileHashRecord. If this function returns false, then we have not seen the file before. And at this point, we can then go ahead and do any processing on the file that we need to do. Once that is completed, we're appending the hash number we have generated to the end of the hash file record. Then we can exit the loop, or we could continue to look for more files of the same name appearing in the folder. So our task for today is to put a delay in here. We need a new function that will tell us how long ago the file was last updated. I'm going to set this to return the number of minutes since that file has indeed been updated. So we will create a brand new function, and we'll call this function in here before we do any processing. And this new function is taking a single parameter, which is the path and the name of the target file. And we're going to make anything that follows that conditional on this returning true. So if this function returns false, we will not do any further processing, and we will not append the hash record to the end of our hash record file. So the return from this function will be a number. We're testing that against this constant, the minutes to wait. We'll set that up at the beginning of our application, and we'll make that 10 minutes. As this new function is going to be operating on a file, we're going to add it to one of our libraries, the File Handling Routines library. So we will add this to the index at the beginning of our file, and create the skeleton of the function taking in its single parameter. In order to work this out, we're going to create two local variables which are going to be iPowerTime variables. One to hold the date and time of now, and one to hold the date and time of the file. Using these PowerTime variables, it will save you a great deal of coding. We're going to pull back the file data from the file itself, and we're going to store that in a user-defined type. This is one of the user-defined types that comes with PowerBasic, and that is dir data. If we do an F1 on dir data, we'll see that this is one of the built-in user-defined types. And there's dir data, and it stores quite a bit of information on the file itself, the attributes, the creation time, and the last write time. This is the kind of information that we're interested in. And we can use dir data directly with the dir$ function. Before we do that, there are three additional variables I'm going to create. An str file variable to store the name of the file as we discover it on disk. This is just in case the file passed in at that point does not exist. Normally this shouldn't happen, but with files you never know. The second is a sine variable. We're going to use one of the inbuilt PowerTime commands to work out the difference between now and the time the file was last accessed. And this will return a sign, either plus or minus. And the final variable is minutes. This will be the number of minutes since the file was last updated. Next, we will prepare these two variables, dayNow for the current time and fileNow for the file time. And we're going to populate the file variable using the $$ command. We're using the value we passed in as the name and the path to the file, and we're passing the output of that to the file data variable, which is this DIRData user-defined type. We can quite easily pick up the current date and time by using dayNow.now. This way we can pick up the date and time very easily using the PowerTime class. So at this point, we need to check to make sure the str file does actually contain the details of the file. So we'll test that to make sure it's not an empty len string. If it is, then for some reason we have not found a file, and we're going to return a -1 as the return from the function. If we do have something in the file variable, then we can now capture the time the file was last modified. We can very easily pick that up as filenow.filetime equals the file data last write time. This will put into file time the last time this particular file has been updated. Now all we need to do is to work out how long ago this actually was. And to do that, we're going to use the timeDiff method. This takes a number of parameters. We're first going to give it the PowerTime variable we're comparing against, which is fileNow. Then the next variable is the sign. This is either going to be positive or negative. As we're not interested in the days and the hours and only interested in the minutes, if you put each of these parameters as byval0, that way it will return the value in minutes only. Then all we need to do is to make the return of the function equal to the number of minutes. So that is our function complete. It will run against the specified file and return the number of minutes. So let's try it out and see how it runs. Since the purpose of this application is to look for a file, we'll need a file in that target folder. At the moment, the target folder is empty. If we copy in a file which was last modified on the 13th of January, some days ago, it should find this one straight away. So in order to test out this new function, let's make a call to that on its own. I'm going to send the number of minutes returned from this function out to the log. And we'll comment this piece of code out for the moment. And immediately after having done that, we will exit from our loop. So before we run our application, we'll need to remove the file hash record, as this holds the hash of our file. So if we try running our application now, and it is coming back to say it's found a file, and it's giving us a value of 19,927 minutes. So this target file has been created some time ago. So let's amend our target file to recreate it. We will delete the existing file and we will create a new one. If we look at the details of the file, we will see it has just been created just now. So if we run our application once more, it's saying the last processed is 0, so it's less than a minute. So we will wait a few moments and we will run the application again to see if it picks up the time is 1 or 2 minutes. And here we are a couple minutes further on in time. Let's run the application again now. And it's telling us that the file was created 2 minutes ago. So now that we've proved that our new function is returning the number of minutes since the file was last updated. So let's take those 2 lines of code out and we will comment back in our main processing. So at the moment our minutes to wait is 10. So if we run the application now, it will detect that the file is new, that it has not seen it before, but the number of minutes is less than the minutes to wait, so it should continue looping. as it does. So if we reduce the number of minutes to wait to, for example, 3, and run our application again, it will keep running, and once the file has been 3 minutes, it will pick up the file and record the hash, as it has now done. It has now got to processing, and it's saying press any key to exit. So if we look in the folder, we will see it's created a file hash record, and there it is. So what we've achieved today is we've created a generic function. This function will return the number of minutes since a file was last updated. And we're using this to give us a delay before we do any processing on a file a user has uploaded to a folder which we have been monitoring to see if a file appears. As this new function is waiting for the number of minutes since a file was updated, it can be quite easily amended to look for hours or even days, just by amending this single line of code. If you substitute byval0 for the long minutes and put any long hours, you will pick up the number of hours. Or alternatively, if you do the same for the first variable here, you can pick up the number of days. Hopefully you'll find this kind of function useful in your applications, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.